Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're listening on the apps of those two fine radio stations, which are free to download, free to use, and you can listen to this or any of your favorite shows on those two stations in crystal clear streaming audio. Of course, there is another way to consume the show on a daily basis that is sweeping the nation, and that is to watch the show anywhere you scroll. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics today, and as always, I'd love to get your thoughts. 719-247-1313 is the number you could call or text in the show, or if you are watching on social media, you could simply drop a comment right there. Let's start with the Peyton Watson saga coming to an end. Just as I was signing off of yesterday's show, the news broke that the Nuggets officially dump Peyton Watson. And I think when you get no players in return, that is technically a dump. They dump Peyton Watson to the Cleveland Cavaliers in a 3-team deal. Max Strus goes to the Clippers. The Nuggets pick up the Cavs first-round pick in 2031. What are your plans for 2031? And they pick up a second-round pick as well. And look, it's not about the trade of Peyton Watson by itself that I think has Nuggets fans so frustrated. Because if you've been listening to this show, you know that what the Nuggets got in return for Peyton Watson, pretty fair trade value, if we're being honest about it. I had said, and when I saw the trade return, I thought, well, they're not going to get a player in return. More on why they didn't in a moment. But I thought it was a rotational player from another team and a pick. I thought that's the best that the Nuggets were going to be able to do for a player in Peyton Watson that has shown promise in 1 month of one season of his career. The month of January this year, when Nikola Jokic was out, Peyton Watson shined, and I give him credit for that. But this idea that he is this linchpin core player that the Denver Nuggets cannot bear to lose, I just never bought into it. And you see what's funny is that he goes to Cleveland and he signs for less money than Christian Brown did with the Denver Nuggets. But therein lies the issue. Okay? It's not about losing Peyton Watson. Trust me, it'll be fine in terms of you won't watch him in Cleveland and go, man, the Nuggets really screwed up. I don't believe that. The issue is, here is another deal that the Nuggets have consummated in which you say that for right now, the Nuggets are a worse basketball team. That's why I said that I thought that the Nuggets should be asking for a player in return. So you could say, well, they got this player for Peyton Watson. Is he better? Is he different? How does it change the Denver Nuggets? We don't have that dynamic because the Nuggets just dumped him. And this is a microcosm of the direction that the Nuggets organization has been going in every year since they won a title. You look at the roster and they're not. Valanciunas and Tim Hardaway are the exceptions. That was a team trying to get better, right? They got Cam Johnson. They brought in Valanciunas and Tim Hardaway. So we have to be fair. We can't completely loop in every season since they won a title and said every year the Nuggets are getting worse. We thought that the Nuggets were, in the aggregate, getting better last year. Turns out they were not better. So what do? You go out and you make other moves to try and make yourself better. That wasn't good enough. How do we get better? And the Nuggets instead this offseason have said, we are just going to, whatever talent we do have left, we're just going to lose it and replace it with worse players. And that is what's frustrating as a Nuggets fan. It's not about Peyton Watson. You don't believe that Peyton Watson is going to become a superstar. But it's the Nuggets that, other than one off season, are just getting worse and worse and worse and further and further and further away from winning a title. Because the obvious question after they dealt Peyton Watson is, okay, now what are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you now what the Nuggets are going to do. They're going to take that first-round pick, and they're going to package it with another bad contract that they have signed, and they're going to get themselves out of the second apron. That's what they're going to do. The Nuggets, with this trade, are still in the second apron. And I've been talking about this. Whether they sign Peyton Watson or not, they still have to deal with the second apron. They're going to take this draft capital, and they're not going to turn around and make a trade for a player that you think will increase the likelihood that they'll win a title. They will further gut this roster. And you may say that, like Peyton Watson, the player that they're losing, you're not going to miss. But you can't say that the Nuggets are a better team by losing the players they've been losing and getting nothing in return. The reality is that the Denver Nuggets, as Josh Kroenke has said, built their team under a different collective bargaining agreement. And perhaps unbeknownst to them, they completely ruined their roster for the next CBA. Their roster that they built and won a title with was completely incompatible with the new CBA. And what they have been doing is trying to find their way out ever since, and they just can't. Now, all of this is not on Ben Tenzer and John Wallace, okay? But what has become abundantly clear is that other than finding ways to shed salary, this duo hasn't proven to be good enough to rebuild the Denver Nuggets, to get them closer. They have done nothing to get this team closer to winning a title. But they, to be fair to them, they were left with quite the mess. The Nuggets overpaid Aaron Gordon. They overpaid Jamal Murray. They overpaid Michael Porter Jr. And this regime, and to say nothing of Calvin Booth giving up all of his draft capital to cover his own mistakes like Reggie Jackson. He signed Zeke Naji, who they cannot trade to save their lives. They traded multiple picks so they could get Deron Holmes, who we have not seen play in an NBA game yet. Like, most of this is on Calvin Booth. I will grant you that. But this front office has been proven to be unable to get themselves out of this mess. And that's what their job is. You have Nikola Jokic in his prime. He is the best player walking planet Earth. It shouldn't be this difficult. You should be able to upgrade the roster. You should be able to supplement the best player in the world. But and one of the main issues with this front office is they're trying to undo some of the damage of Calvin Booth, but there is a limit to how far they will go. Right? It seems like they were not even willing to discuss the possibility of trading Jamal Murray. An idea that I cannot comprehend for the life of me. Why you are completely unwilling to trade Jamal Murray is beyond me. And they seem only slightly willing to entertain offers regarding Aaron Gordon. And I understand that Aaron Gordon is a glue guy. He is in many ways the heartbeat of the team, the soul of the team, and he would be down on the list of guys that I would want the Nuggets to trade. But the fact of the matter is, because of the mess that Calvin Booth left behind, that Josh Kroenke let happen because he was in London this whole time and allowed the Nuggets to decay from the inside with the dynamic between Michael Malone and Calvin Booth. But because of what he allowed Calvin Booth to do to this organization, it's quite the task that Ben Tenzer and John Wallace have on their hands. But when you have this mess that you have to extricate yourself from, you have to put everything on the table. And that's what we were assured in the postseason press conference by Josh Kroenke, that everyone not named Nikola Jokic was available. And all the reporting we have gotten this offseason is that Jamal Murray is in the same protected category as Nikola Jokic, which is completely and objectively wrong. So you have two forces at play here. You have a previous general manager that has completely screwed up this basketball team and this roster. There are no young players on this roster that you look at and say, I'm excited about what they could be. And they have these contracts that are very difficult to move. You have no draft capital. So you have this mess. But then you have a current regime that it is setting limits to what they will do to get themselves out. So what's the end result? Just this slow drip of talent away from this roster and this Nuggets team going down and down and down. With no sign whatsoever, because we haven't hit the bottom yet, folks. This is not the bottom yet. Somebody else is going to get traded. They're going to get under that second apron, and then they're going to fill out their roster, which I don't know how they're going to do with how close they'll be up against the second apron. And again, the fact that they're not willing to explore all avenues to be able to improve this basketball team. The amount of talent that the Nuggets will let walk out the front door is not over yet. That door is still open. Somebody else is walking through that door between now and October. And then we'll assess a roster and we'll see that this team is worse than they were the year before. And it just, the frustration is there's not a clear direction. They're hopping from one lily pad to the next. We can get this item of business done, so we're going to do that. And then, but we can't do this, so we're going to move over here and do this. There's no clear direction from this front office. There's no meaningful moves to get this team either financially stable or better as a basketball team. Obviously, the latter being more important. They're just treading water. Okay, we can get some dude from Europe. We can get Marvin Bagley. We can fill out our roster. That's all they're doing. They're just grabbing dudes to fill out their roster. They're not getting better. When you have a superstar that is in his prime, you need a clear direction and you need to go full bore in that direction. So my one question based around Peyton Watson is, why didn't you just keep him for the qualifying offer? Like, I'm with the Denver Nuggets. I'm glad that they played hardball. I thought that Clutch Sports completely overvalued their client, and that's on them. And the market spoke, by the way. You look at the return that the Nuggets got and you look at the contract that Peyton Watson signed, that's not what they were trying to get. That's not what they believed Peyton Watson deserved. The Nuggets were right. They valued Peyton Watson correctly. But there's a bigger picture here in that the Nuggets are supposedly still in the business of winning championships. And how can you say that with no Peyton Watson, that the Nuggets are a better team than they were 48 hours ago? They need to get better. So how is making this move and understanding that they're going to take their newfound draft capital and dump another contract, when are they going to move the other direction? And I don't think they know the answer to that. I think just keeping him under the qualifying offer, playing one more year, seeing what this team could do, and then saying goodbye to Peyton Watson and let him go somewhere else, I think it's just as good, if not a little bit better than what they did. It's just, it is, and this isn't news to you because we've been talking about it all summer. It is just a complete and utter mess. And I can't, in all honesty, I really can't think of another example of an organization in the NBA or any other sport for that matter that has had a star like Nikola Jokic and mismanaged the prime of his career worse than the Denver Nuggets have done. If you have an example, please, by all means, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope there's another example that's worse than this, but I legitimately can't think of one. They have bungled this, and it's not just Tenzer and Wallace. It's not just Calvin Booth. It's all of them, and who is at the top of that pyramid? There was a time where we thought that the Nuggets were Josh Kroenke's baby, that he loved the Nuggets more than any other team. Avs fans, they got quite upset over that notion. Like, this is the product that Josh Kroenke's supposed to care about the most. How can this be the result of that? So it's not that Peyton Watson is a much better player or deserved to get more in return than they got. It's not. It looks like a pretty fair offer. And Peyton Watson wasn't going to be the guy to put them over the top. I promise you. But what you're left with, what you can at least say, is that the Nuggets with Peyton Watson are better than the Nuggets without Peyton Watson, because you did not bring in another player that we could debate, well, is this guy better? I think that's the issue. If there's an issue with the trade itself, it's that the Nuggets didn't get back another player in return, so they're just voluntarily making their roster worse. And it's hard to calibrate, right? Because I'm saying that the Nuggets are better with Peyton Watson than without him. And that's true. But it's also true that the Nuggets shouldn't have bent over backwards and given out another garbage contract to Peyton Watson like they did for Christian Brown, which is on Ben Tenzer and John Wallace. They got in and saw the mess that was in front of them, and one of their first orders of business was to overpay Christian Brown. So that's why I said it's a pox on all houses. Everybody that has, since Tim Connolly left, everybody that has run through that organization has responsibility on their shoulders for the situation they find themselves in right now. And I'm glad that they didn't, bend and give Peyton Watson what he wanted, because he didn't deserve it. But if you keep him on the 1-year qualifying offer, you have a basketball player on your team. Right now, the Nuggets are down another basketball player. How are they going to replace him? What are they going to do next, understanding that they are still in the second apron? Peyton Watson is not the end of the untangling of the Calvin Booth mess. We're not done yet with this. So you have to first ask yourself, when are they going to undo the damage of Calvin Booth? And then the next step is, when are they going to get around to improving their basketball team so they stop losing ground to Minnesota, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City? And who knows what team this year is going to emerge? We might be talking about the Portland Trailblazers have passed up the Denver Nuggets. And all of this going on when you have the best player that has ever worn a Nuggets uniform is on your team right now. And they have completely bungled this. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the Peyton Watson trade and where the Denver Nuggets go from here. Just getting going on Drive Time Sports. It's Denver and Green Bay tomorrow night in preseason game number 2. If you're looking for a place to watch it, may I suggest Trainwreck, 2 blocks south of Widener Field in downtown Colorado Springs. One, because it's always a great choice to go watch a game, but also I will be there doing this show from 3 to 6, getting you ready for preseason game number 2. So I'll bring tickets, goodies, stuff like that. I'll make it worth your while. Come on out, come hang, and check out Trainwreck if you haven't already, or if you have before, you'll know that you're in for a great time. So Trainwreck, 2 blocks south of Widener Field, tomorrow, 3 to 6, and then stick around for Denver and Green Bay at 7 o'clock. The Peyton Watson trade, the primary topic of conversation today, as the Denver Nuggets are getting closer to at least getting themselves in a better financial position, which doesn't make any Nuggets fan feel better. But more importantly, are not getting this team any closer to winning a title. Taking your thoughts, 719-247-1313. This coming in from Tom, says that Brown deal is going to handcuff the Nuggets for a long time. Their depth is deteriorating. And that's the kicker. Every time that I want to give, I don't know, not give a reprieve, but have some patience with Ben Tenzer and John Wallace and say, look, they inherited a mess of a roster. Financially, as much as, the actual talent, right? Every time I try to do that, I remind myself that they willingly signed Christian Brown to that contract, more money than Peyton Watson ended up getting from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Christian Brown immediately went out and had unequivocally the worst season of his, albeit brief, NBA career. And the thing is it's not even a debate over whether they should want to keep Christian Brown. I think there is a reason to keep Christian Brown on the roster. Okay, I'm not saying that the Nuggets should just jettison him, but the fact of the matter is they could have done the exact same thing they did with Peyton Watson and let the season play out and then make a decision. And then would $25 million a year be the offer to Christian Brown after the season he had? Maybe it's 20 or 22 million. I could make an argument that Christian Brown is worth more than Peyton Watson. And guess what? The NBA said that Christian Brown is worth more than Peyton Watson to a degree, right? Cavaliers aren't paying Peyton Watson as much as Christian Brown. I can make an argument that Christian Brown is a player that the Nuggets need to prioritize over Peyton Watson. But you couldn't let that play out over this last season, and we have that discussion now. What was the hurry? It's like they took a page from the old Nuggets playbook, which is let's sign these guys immediately to more money than we probably should just to keep the team together. Right? They did it with Porter. They did it with Gordon. They did it certainly with Jamal Murray. Why, when you had his restricted free agency rights, why are you in a rush to sign Christian Brown? And we all knew it at the time. This is not hindsight. The most positive thing I said about the Christian Brown contract was I thought it wasn't too much that the Nuggets couldn't move off of it. That was the nicest thing I said about that decision. And I was even wrong. They can't move that contract. So he goes right in line with, in the Zeke Naji bin of these immovable contracts. Here's a list, by the way, to the bigger point here. Right? Because like I said to the start, this isn't about just Peyton Watson. It's about what Peyton Watson represents, the bigger picture here. Here are the list of players that the Denver Nuggets have acquired leading up to their championship year. So the Calvin Booth era on, here are the players that the Denver Nuggets have acquired. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, great move. What did they do? They let him walk the very next year. Ish Smith, Bruce Brown, what did they do? They let him walk the next year, and then they brought him back, and he was a lesser player than he was when he was with the Denver Nuggets the first time. DeAndre Jordan, they drafted Christian Brown. They drafted Peyton Watson, who now is no longer on the roster. Jack White, Colin Gillespie, who they let go and is now a star for the Phoenix Suns. Thomas Bryant, Reggie Jackson, who they had to give up multiple picks to just dump his salary. Julian Strawther, who has yet to hit, and we're going on 4 years now of Julian Strawther in the NBA. Jalen Pickett, who is now on the Clippers. Hunter Tyson, who's on the Nets now. Justin Holiday, Jay Huff, Braxton Key, Russell Westbrook, who they had for a year and then let go. Dario Saric, who is a disaster. Deron Holmes, who we have yet to see play. Trey Alexander, PJ Hall, Cam Johnson. Okay, not ruling on Cam Johnson just yet. Jonas Valanciunas, 1 year, didn't really work. Now he's gone. They brought in Marvin Bagley. My hopes are not high. Tyus Jones, who apparently is their big fix for the fact that Jamal Murray is the only ball handler they have. They're going to throw out Tyus Jones for another year for a team that thinks they're going to win a championship. Alpha Diallo, who they just acquired. Lonnie Walker IV, not technically on the team. He's trying out. Trevon Brazile, who had a really good summer league. Remind me of the last player that took summer league superstardom and was guaranteed success in the NBA. Spencer Jones, who they had to overpay because the Oklahoma City Thunder came in and took advantage of the Nuggets situation. David Roddy, who is not on the team anymore. Bryce Hopkins, who is they drafted this year. Curtis Jones and KJ Simpson. Can you get to 5 names who have positively impacted the Denver Nuggets off of that list? I just read off a lot of names. Can you get to 5? Christian Brown did for the championship run. Peyton Watson did for a month while Nikola Jokic was out. Looking, scrolling down. Russell Westbrook did some good things, but in the end, just to say it didn't end well. Dario Saric was a disaster. Deron Holmes, we haven't seen play. Cam Johnson, maybe. Jonas Valanciunas didn't work. Nope. Spencer Jones, you want to throw him into that? Oh, Bruce Brown. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You could get to 5 if you add them in. But not Bruce Brown the second time around, just Bruce Brown during the title run. Is this the list of names that are indicative of a serious franchise, serious about building around their superstar, the greatest player to ever wear their jersey? Is that the list of names? Not to me. And oh, by the way, that's just who they've acquired. To say nothing of the contracts that they gave out to Tom's point, Christian Brown, Jamal Murray, Zeke Naji. I get it. It's not easy to build around a superstar. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy, that anybody could do it. But it shouldn't be this hard. It really should not be. My other question was, is there an example in sports right now of another organization that has wasted a star to the degree that the Nuggets have, that have botched the prime of a superstar's career the way that the Nuggets have? This one coming in, from Raphael says the Bengals with Joe Burrow. It's a good one. It's a good one. Not the company. Even if you could find one, here would be my natural answer to it. Let's say the Bengals are a good one, and I do think that he's on to something. Is that who you want to be lumped in with? That's kind of my point. Maybe the Nuggets do not stand alone, but they stand in a group of teams that I don't want to be a fan of, that I don't want to invest in. And look, there's so many layers to this. There's so many different directions, and that's why it's good that we have 3 hours to discuss this. But on one hand, I can understand this situation that the current front office has walked into. And I can acknowledge how difficult the situation that is. But when I have made my suggestions for what the Nuggets should do, I actually haven't been saying go all in, add as many players as you can to make a run this year. I've actually been advocating for the Nuggets to voluntarily take a step back in order to take a step forward. Trade Jamal Murray and get multiple players that fit today's NBA and can make you deeper, and maybe you can make a bet on one of these guys to hit and start. Like Jamal Murray had a good season, but guess what? He's a one-time All-Star. So I've actually advocated for the Denver Nuggets to go further with their cost-cutting measures in order to take a step back, to take a step forward. And that's part of it with this move, is that they're taking a step back, maybe not as big of a step back as they would if they were to trade Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray, but they can't move forward. Like I said, Peyton Watson doesn't change one bit their financial situation. They're still in the second apron with 2 roster spots open. They still got to add 2 guys. So my plan was take a step back this year. It's going to be tough, but you can set yourself up to take a step forward. The Nuggets are taking baby steps back because in some weird way they think that you're going to buy into it and say that there's enough meat on the bone here for the Denver Nuggets to compete for a championship, but they have no plan to step forward. It's just tiny steps back. Back, like Chris Berman used to say. With no clear vision on how they're going to take a step forward. I mean, if you are deathly afraid of the second apron and your roster is too top heavy, then do something about it. Do something real. Letting Jonas Valanciunas and Tim Hardaway go and dumping Peyton Watson on the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's not getting them anywhere. They're still in the second apron. At least with my plan, you get immediately out of the apron. You know, I brought up the old sentiment from Avalanche fans in the last segment that Avs fans felt a little bit like, and I can say this because I'm redheaded, the redheaded stepchild of the Kroenke Sports Empire. It didn't seem like Stan and Josh cared a lot about the Colorado Avalanche. Fast forward a few years, that is actually the best thing that could have happened to the Colorado Avalanche. Right? They left Joe Sakic to his own devices, and things have turned out pretty well. The team inside Ball Arena that Josh Kroenke supposedly cares the most about and pays the most attention to is getting ruined. 719-247-1313. We'll continue our conversation next. if you're listening on radio, boy, is that the perfect guy that you want to hear from bringing us back, Nikola Jokic. How does he feel about all of this? He was asked today about his reaction to Peyton Watson leaving. I'll give you that. And what lies ahead for him. Because obviously Nikola Jokic is at the heart of all of this and what the Denver Nuggets are doing. You are entering a year where you have no more contractual control over Nikola Jokic. And everyone just keeps waiting for Nikola Jokic's patience to run out. So we'll talk Jokic and his place in all of this as the Nuggets deal Peyton Watson last night to the Cleveland Cavaliers. No player in return, only picks, which are valuable pieces to be able to dump more bad contracts that you yourself agreed to. We'll hit the pause button on the Nuggets for a moment. I want to spend the next couple of minutes. Last night, for you Switchbacks fans, not a great night for the boys. More stoppage time magic, though, at the end of the first half. Adrian Perez equalizing for Switchbacks FC to go into the break with Phoenix 1-1. And then what I saw last night was a team that is more so than physically tired, mentally tired. They have played Saturday to Wednesday, to Saturday, to Wednesday again. And matches against high-quality opponents, to say nothing of the travel. They've been to Rhode Island, they've been to Spokane, they've been in Colorado Springs, they've been in Phoenix. It was 108 degrees last night as they were playing Phoenix. So, yeah, I think there was some physical fatigue, but I think the way the Switchbacks kind of broke down there in the second half, I think it's mental fatigue. And look, if you're a Switchbacks fan, you know what this time of year is. You know how important each and every one of these matches are. Last night was an opportunity with no one else playing in the league for the Switchbacks to just gain ground on everybody. So I understand that frustration, but underneath that or right along with that, there has to be some understanding. I mean, this is just not a stretch that teams go through. When you log the number of miles and the number of matches in this amount of time, with, by the way, injuries. Patrick Burner, still not back yet. Yosuke Hanya missed his second straight game. They just got back Juan Tejada. They didn't have Garvin Matusla last night because of his red card suspension. So this team, a little light on numbers, playing a brutal stretch with a lot of travel. Yet you have to understand. And I think if you're a Switchbacks fan, you do. You do understand. And that frustration maybe just turns to a situation rather than, over any particular result. It's not a great situation that the Switchbacks have been put in over the last few weeks. Some of it's their own doing because, how dare they take the USL Cup seriously and try to win that? But this is what you have to deal with. Now, I don't know how they decide where to play USL Cup matches, but to me, for a League One side to get home field advantage in the quarterfinals over a USL Championship team seems wrong. It's great that Spokane made it as far as they did. They should have to come to Widener Field. But it's a difficult situation, and they're not out of it yet because they're going to play Saturday night, thankfully, at home against a very good El Paso side, and it'll be the culmination of this absolute brutal stretch. And look, one thing I can say, if you zoom out a little bit, right? I know last night was a tough one. You never like to lose those kind of matches, especially when the match goes on till 10:30 at night. But look, they lost to Rhode Island. That was tough. They beat Spokane. They got picked up 3 crucial points against Birmingham. I would say if you look at this stretch overall, you don't love it, but it very much could be worse. They're still alive in the USL Cup. They did pick up 3 points at home against Birmingham. I think despite all the travel and the number of matches, I think that should be the expectation for Saturday. I know it's Alan McCann's expectation to get all 3 points. And if they do that, we do the same thing in every sport. Like, we get a little myopic and we look at just the next game or the next couple of days. If you zoom out a little bit, if I were to tell you that the Switchbacks will go from one coast to the next, they will play, 5 matches in the span of 2 weeks, and they're able to get 3 wins and 2 losses in that time, I think you'd take it. So Saturday becomes a big one in that regard, because I think the perception of how the Switchbacks weathered this storm is solely based on what the result is on Saturday. If they come away with a win, you say, man, did they do the best job they could with everything going on, injuries, travel, number of games in a short amount of time. If they lose on Saturday, then you're like, man, all the good that this team did in the month of July, they kind of gave some of it back. And then you're looking at more road games than home games the rest of the way in the Switchbacks on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. So you understand the situation that they're in, and I think more of your frustration as a Switchbacks fan is towards that. But let's hope the boys can get 3 points on Saturday, and I think it will make the entire stretch look a lot better, and the Switchbacks should be into a playoff position if they can get all 3 points against El Paso. That's Saturday night, 7:00. Be there to cheer on the boys. They need it. They need you to urge them on. SwitchbacksFC.com to get those tickets. Coming up next, the Nuggets once again tempting fate with Jokic. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Of course, you can listen to the show on Extra Sports 1300 or 740 KVOR. Stream it through both of those stations' streaming platforms. They each have their own, both worth downloading, and it will cost you nothing. Or you could watch the show anywhere you scroll. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. Nifty handles to know if you would like to watch the show at Extra Sports 1300 at 740 KVOR, or I am at Gingerly Tweets on X, at Gingerwatch on Instagram. The Nuggets, once again, testing the patience of their superstar, Nikola Jokic. And Nikola Jokic has been, I've called Nikola Jokic the anti-superstar. And I mean that in the best way possible. It is a term of endearment. Because in the NBA, we have gone through the player empowerment era in which so many players decided, get me out of here, and left the teams that were trading them destitute and with no chance to win, just so they could go play with their buddies or go to a city that had a better climate. And in the midst of all of that, Nikola Jokic has remained committed to a market that has never been seen as a premier destination for NBA players. And he has remained patient and loyal to an organization that has made the team around him worse and worse and worse. With the latest move being the Denver Nuggets engaged in a three-way trade with the Clippers and the Cavaliers, in which they trade Peyton Watson to Cleveland. He turned around and signed a 4-year, $88 million contract. So even the Cavs didn't think that Peyton Watson was worth more than Christian Brown's getting paid. I think that's important. Nuggets, for their participation, will pick up a first-round pick in 2031 when, AI robots may have taken over the NBA and it's just AI robots that play. Who knows what's going to happen in the year 2031? But that's the pick that the Nuggets have now from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they also pick up a second-round pick as well. So essentially what the Nuggets did is they simply dumped Peyton Watson without getting a single player in return. And unequivocally, you would say that the Denver Nuggets are a worse basketball team today than they were 48 hours ago. Doesn't mean that Peyton Watson was what Clutch Sports thought Peyton Watson was, or what Peyton Watson thought Peyton Watson was. But it does mean that the Denver Nuggets are a worse team today than they were 48 hours ago. 24 hours ago. So the question is, why not just keep Peyton Watson on the qualifying offer, right? You have that power. Keep him on the roster, knowing that there is nothing else you can do to improve the basketball team, or nothing else you're willing to do to improve the basketball team. It's a little bit of an open-ended question, which one of those it is. And just, no one's going to pick the Nuggets to win a title, but it beats the alternative of no Peyton Watson and no replacement for Peyton Watson. But the answer to that question is pretty clear to me. The Nuggets are not done shedding payroll. We have not hit the bottom yet. And you feel like with all of these moves that have happened over the last few years since they won a title, I feel like it's a lifetime ago that I was at Ball Arena with confetti under my feet as I was standing on the floor after the Nuggets beat the Miami Heat. It feels like a lifetime ago. But we have not gotten to rock bottom in terms of the Denver Nuggets shedding talent from their roster. And that's why they didn't take a player back in return. They have to shed more payroll before they can start moving back the right direction and improving this basketball team. So I'll let you be you can tell me how confident you are that the Denver Nuggets are ever going to start back in that direction at 719-24-7, 1313. But why not keep Peyton Watson? The answer, they need draft capital to be able to dump their bad contracts and mediocre players on other teams because they are unwilling to make the really difficult decision that I actually think would make the Nuggets better in the long term, or at least get them to the bottom and then start them back towards the top, trading a Jamal Murray. They still got to, shed a little bit more, cut a little bit more. It's like the corporate world. You make some cuts and then corporate comes back around to you and we're going to have you cut a little bit more. But we don't want to lose anybody else. Got to cut a little bit more. Then they come back around and ask you for more. That's what the Denver Nuggets are doing right now. They're dropping a player here, a player there. They're spreading it out. So either supposedly you don't notice, they do it sneaky, so you don't notice that the Nuggets are getting worse and worse every day that goes by, or they're not, or they have this warped belief that you think that with a core of Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic that you can win a championship with whatever else it is that the Nuggets have around them. I don't know. I really don't know what is going on in there. I can figure some things out. I can't figure others out. But this is all happening, of course, when Nikola Jokic has elected not to sign his extension. After this season, he can choose to decline his player option and become one of the most significant free agents we have seen in recent NBA history. That is a slim possibility, but a possibility nonetheless. The Nuggets have no contractual control over Nikola Jokic after this season. It's all in Jokic's hands. Nikola Jokic playing in a FIBA World Cup today was asked his reaction. And if you are on Nuggets Twitter, Miroslav Suk, I think his last name is, at Miroslav CUK. He's a good follow, talks a lot of Nuggets, has good insight into Nikola Jokic. He's in Europe there, but he asked Nikola Jokic today, and the comments from Jokic translated, "I'm happy for Peyton. He deserved it. We will miss his energy and skill. I don't think about season yet. We have to play this being the tournament he's currently in, but it's going to be okay." That's Jokic's message to you. We're going to miss Peyton Watson, but it's going to be okay. I wish that I had 1/10 the positivity that Nikola Jokic does. But it's just the way that he is wired. He is not going to, when he has time to think about it, he's not going to upset the apple cart. He's not going to throw people under the bus. But there have been moments which the mask comes off, and Nikola Jokic is a little bit more open with his feelings. And that was immediately following the Nuggets playoff loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, in which he said, "We're not close." And the move made by the Denver Nuggets to just simply dump Peyton Watson is kind of a sign that they agree with him, that they're not close. And maybe you agree with them. I agree with them. The Nuggets are getting further and further away from the Spurs and the Thunder and the Timberwolves every day. I agree they're not close. But the question everyone is asking is, when are the Nuggets going to get closer? When are they going to make a move where you go, the Nuggets got better today? In a real way, not that everyone gets draft picks so everyone feels like their team got better. It's the NBA draft, for Pete's sake. Like, there's only going to be so many of these guys that hit. Let's be honest about the hit rate of draft picks. And I know Nikola Jokic, second round pick. That's what the Nuggets will use to fool you into thinking that they got a good read on what they're doing and they're improving the basketball team. They will weaponize that fact against you. I think that Nikola Jokic is going to end up signing the largest contract in NBA history, which he would only be able to sign if he were to stay with the Denver Nuggets. I still believe that is going to be the case. But the fact that the Nuggets have opened this door while doing nothing to significantly improve this basketball team is just, it's organizational malpractice. You can't get up to the line. You can't walk up to the edge of the abyss like this. Because it would be one thing if Nikola Jokic was just looking for the biggest contract he could get, and this were 5 years ago, right? When you looked at the roster and you said, you know, they're a title contender. Right? You could stomach the fact that they wouldn't have contractual control of Nikola Jokic beyond the next season if you believed in the team that he was playing on. It's the combination of those two things that worries you to death if you're a Nuggets fan. And it's to the point now that rumors start circulating. They have new ownership in LA. What does every new owner want to do? Make a splash. What do you think the rumors are out of Los Angeles in what the new owners want to do? What do you think the former CEO of Disney would like to do to make a splash? How about getting Nikola Jokic to play with Luka Doncic? Now, in the past, these rumors are Laker arrogance, right? Like the Lakers have this feeling that every superstar is dying to play for them, that would be willing to take less money and be willing to do whatever it takes to be a Los Angeles Laker. And look, to be fair, along the way, they have had some things that have happened that have fed that, right? But for the most part, it's overinflated. The Lakers have missed out on plenty of superstars over the years. And in the past, when they're talking about, oh, Nikola Jokic up for a contract, Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets aren't doing well, we're going to swoop in and we're going to land him. That it was annoying, right? But you could kind of dismiss it and be like, oh, it's just Laker media and Laker fans being Laker media and Laker fans. They think the world revolves around them and everybody wants to play for the Lakers. Nikola Jokic doesn't want to leave Denver. He doesn't want to play for the LA Lakers this year because today is just the start. I mean, we got this team in Greece that thinks they have a legitimate shot of landing Nikola Jokic. Remember that guy a couple of weeks ago offering the Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets an offer to get Jokic to Greece this past season? But this year, if you're a Nuggets fan, I'm just telling you, you're going to have to kind of take it. You're just going to kind of have to live with this. and understand that it's the team that you root for, it's the organization that you pull for that has opened the door, that has allowed for there to be a little bit more, I don't want to say fire behind the billowing smoke, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous anymore, because you see what the organization is doing and you go, I don't know if I would want to stick around if I'm Nikola Jokic. Like, that's what we have to be honest about. And I wonder this, I'll throw out this question at 719-247-1313. We don't shy away from the difficult conversations. This is a safe space. Any part of you, like deep down in the very evil part of you, want Nikola Jokic to opt out, not pick up his player option, and at the very least, make the Nuggets sweat. Enter the free agent market. Take meetings. Any part of you want that? I kind of say part of me just wishes that once Nikola Jokic started to move, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm blaming the Denver Nuggets for what they've done to me. I kind of wish that Nikola Jokic would move a few slots down the spectrum closer to the LeBron James side. Take a little bit more of the player empowerment. I legitimately wish that. I don't wish Nikola Jokic was a full-blown, clone of LeBron James. Please don't misunderstand me, but I kind of wish that Nikola Jokic would, and maybe I shouldn't bring up LeBron because that's a name that's going to trigger everybody around here, but just I wish that Nikola Jokic this one time, in the face of everything that is going on, would act a little bit more like your typical NBA superstar. Because I feel like maybe that would be the nudge to this organization. They keep saying all the right things. We have an obligation. It is our duty. It's our responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. Josh Kroenke's throwing out Uncle Ben quotes. We have Nikola Jokic. We have to do everything we can. You let Jonas Valanciunas go. You let Tim Hardaway walk to the Miami Heat. You signed Alpha Diallo and Marvin Bagley. You traded Peyton Watson for nothing. This doesn't look like a team that feels the urgency that they claim they feel. And part of me says, I wish that Jokic would at least dabble in being a typical NBA superstar. I don't want to lose Nikola Jokic. I don't want him to play for anybody else other than the Denver Nuggets. But I want him to go out into the world and to see what's out there, to put the fear into the Nuggets that legitimately they could lose him, because maybe that would spur them to action. Maybe they'd be more willing to make more difficult decisions. Maybe it would force them to negotiate a little bit harder in these trades. Maybe it would inspire Stan Kroenke to say, you know what? I got to put up the money. I got to pay this luxury tax. What do you think would happen if, like, all of a sudden Matthew Stafford was like, you know what? I don't know that I want to be in LA anymore. You don't think that would, and he said, but I could be swayed if you do this, this, and this. I know it's hard because the LA Rams have actually done everything to help Matthew Stafford get the Rams back to a Super Bowl. But I'm just saying, like, I wonder if it would shake some of the members of the organization to their core enough to say, all right, we have taken advantage of this guy for too long, and now it's very real that he could leave. Let's start doing our job. Let's start doing what we say we're going to do, and actually not just saying that we understand the responsibility and the pressure and all of that kind of stuff that comes along with having a generational superstar. We're actually acting as if we understand it. Part of me wants Nikola Jokic to take this further. Part of me wants Nikola Jokic to stop being the anti-superstar and start being closer to a regular NBA superstar and demand things of his team. And I hate that we're here because it's such a breath of fresh air that Nikola Jokic is the superstar here in Colorado. I mean, we could deal with LeBron shenanigans. We could be New Orleans and have Anthony Davis in that whole saga. We could have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum bickering like teenage girls over who gets credit in Boston. It could be worse. We have such a good thing with Nikola Jokic that he loves where he lives and he wants to remain loyal and he wants to be the Tim Duncan of the Denver Nuggets and play his entire career here. I don't want to lose that. But I also see an organization that just keeps taking advantage of Nikola Jokic's good nature and the fact that he is the anti-superstar. And I say, you know what? You need to poke him a little bit. You need to scare him. I don't think he's ever going to do that. But at this point, that is the only way I can see the Denver Nuggets making real steps towards winning another championship with Nikola Jokic on their roster. 719-247-1313. Would love to get your thoughts after the trade of Peyton Watson getting only draft capital in return that I would almost guarantee you is going to be packaged with another one of their bad contracts so they can get under the second apron. Tell me how that team is going to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, who went out, and maybe you don't think that Minnesota is that much better than they were a year ago. But at least Tim Connolly's trying. At least he's making moves. Maybe the Wolves are just different, but maybe they're better. The Nuggets aren't different or better. And meanwhile, Wemby's taking less money so they could keep that team together. And Oklahoma City is playing with the Denver Nuggets and upping their offer to Spencer Jones to put the Denver Nuggets further into the second apron. The whole league is laughing at the Denver Nuggets. And soon that laughing will just turn into them being sharks circling the Denver Nuggets and just waiting for something to go wrong and Nikola Jokic to wake up one day and realize that I'm wasting my time here. Man, I didn't think after Carmelo and now Nikola Jokic, I didn't think that the Nuggets were ever going back to that time after they traded Dikembe Mutombo, where they're irrelevant, a laughingstock. The rest of the league thinks they can take advantage of them, but that's exactly where it seems like the Denver Nuggets are. 719-247-1313. Right now, and you'll hear from them in just a little bit, Sean Martinez, one of the outstanding members of the Colorado Springs Morning News crew, along with Scorgi, are out at Louisa Graff Jewelers. They got, and it's always, Louisa Graff, they have these amazing promotions and sales going on. They got another one of those. So you will hear from them shortly. But if you're out and about and looking for a place to go see Sean there at Louisa Graff Jewelers. And you find out here shortly what all the fuss is about today. And trust me, there is fuss. It's good fuss. Unlike the fuss that you and I are ruminating over, which is the Denver Nuggets once again making a move that leaves us asking, how is this team better? Dumping Peyton Watson to the Cleveland Cavaliers and getting no humans in return. Only theoretical humans, future humans. 2031 draft, so that would mean, 5 years away? So it would be a 7th grader? 8th grader? That's what they got in return for Peyton Watson. 2031 first-round pick and a second-round pick in some year. Who really cares? No basketball players in return. Couple of your texts before we take a break here from the 719. Ryan, I'm a casual Nuggets fan. Is all their money going to Joker? Can you explain why they're in so much cap trouble? Now, I would not say it is because they are paying Nikola Jokic. Partly because he is just one man, but partly because he is the only guy on the team that seems worth the money he's being paid right now. So I wouldn't frame it that way. Here's what happened. The Denver Nuggets, as you remember, have made sizable contract offers to Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter, along with Jokic. Okay, they won a title. Great. New CBA kicks in. All of a sudden, teams that build their team the way that the Nuggets did and lock up 3 or 4 players are now being punished. You can't do that. We only want you to have 2 really good players, and then everyone else has to be on lesser contracts. Okay, so that's the first part of this. Nuggets, all right, built themselves under a different CBA. But then what did they do? They signed Christian Brown. They're not willing to move off of Jamal Murray or Aaron Gordon. They moved Michael Porter in what turned out to be a 3-for-1 deal, because with the money they saved by trading Porter and bringing Cam Johnson, they also were able to get Jonas Valanciunas as well as Tim Hardaway. So the reason why I would boil it down to 2 things. I would boil it down, one, the way that the NBA rules are, which are completely garbage, and it's part of the reason why Jaylen Brown is now a Philadelphia 76er and Luka Doncic is a LA Laker. Because these super maxes, the teams are scared to death of going into this second apron. Okay, so that's one. The NBA is partially to blame here, but who does Adam Silver work for? The owners. Who's an owner? Stan Kroenke of the Denver Nuggets. So we can't make the Nuggets out to be the victims here, because their owner was one of the big supporters of this current financial system. But as far as under those rules, the issue is that they have so much money tied up in Jokic, Gordon, and Murray. And then they added Christian Brown. So in true Ryan fashion, a lot of words to a pretty simple question. It's not because they're paying Nikola Jokic and all their money is going to him. It's that they still feel like they can pay 3 stars max money, and it's just not feasible in today's NBA salary cap model. And that's part of the reason why I've said I don't just want Jamal Murray off the team. This is not a necessarily anti-Jamal Murray take, but somebody has to go here in order for the Denver Nuggets to free up enough money to be able to remake their team around Nikola Jokic. They're not willing to do that. They want to keep these three guys intact. And they can't. They just can't. And making these other tiny moves are just making the Nuggets worse without really solving the problem. Everybody can afford their star, and everybody is happy to afford their main star. The Boston Celtics are still okay with paying Jason Tatum. They're not okay with paying Tatum and Brown, which is part of the reason why they moved him this offseason. Hopefully that explains it. But that's also part of the issue here. Part of the issue here is that the NBA has made understanding their financial model so convoluted and so difficult that it's sapping the fun out of their league. Because there's this level like, I can't understand what these aprons mean. Is this the kind of stuff that we should be talking about on sports talk radio? The second apron and the freezing of draft picks, and you can't take back more, matching contracts, and you can't, like, how is that good for the league? They overcorrected out of the player empowerment era. And I would say they're worse off for it. This from the 575. You saw how much Harden liked the move, signed right away after the trade was announced. Look, I think that James Harden is in his own orbit. I think the Cavaliers wanted Peyton Watson at a price. Not saying Peyton Watson had zero value. I just think he and his representatives had an inflated value for Peyton Watson. Cleveland saw value in him at less money per year than Christian Brown is getting. That bears repeating. And they told James Harden that you got to wait. We're going to try and improve the roster, and then you can sign. I don't think James Harden might not even know who Peyton Watson is. And that's not an indictment of Peyton Watson. It's just the way I view James Harden. I don't even know what that goes through that dude's head on a day-to-day basis. He was always going to sign with Cleveland. He was always going to sign. He wasn't going anywhere else. They just needed to make this move, and then they could. It's an order of operations thing, not a James Harden was demanding they sign Peyton Watson. And this from Brett, who can still play at the young age of 76. And then adds they signed Dr. J. Did they sign Dr. J? I mean, that would be adding a player. That's kind of what we're asking. Why aren't the Nuggets adding players? What a mess. 719-247-1313. Back after this. Come see me out at Trainwreck, 2 blocks south of Widener Field tomorrow afternoon. I'll be doing the show from 3 to 6. And then, of course, Denver taking on Green Bay in preseason game numero dos at 7 o'clock. Bring tickets to the Switchbacks match on Saturday, some other goodies out there. So come out and hang 3 to 6, and then stick around for Denver and Green Bay at Trainwreck, 2 blocks south of Widener Field in downtown Colorado Springs. We'll reset with the Peyton Watson stuff at the top of the hour, but I do want to get this in because we've been discussing it this week with the Broncos having what Sean Payton called a tussle at their own practice, Broncos v. Broncos, but going on around the league when these teams are having joint practices, there's just been fighting and injuries. And it just goes to show that there's really no ideal way to get these NFL teams ready for the season in terms of, keeping them healthy and keeping them incident free and having a smooth preseason leading up to the season. Is just not, football is just not conducive to this. But I haven't been, I look at these joint practices and Max Crosby fighting with everybody and Scott Steiner's son body slamming a player on the Cowboys. And I go, is this really a better way to go? There's no best way, but are joint practices actually better than preseason games? Because I don't remember the last time a player got body slammed during a preseason game. I don't know that I'm as big of a proponent of joint practices as many people have said. Oh, this is so much better. You got to do joint practices. Forget preseason games. Joint practices, they're so much better. Well, guess who agrees with me? One of the best running backs in the league, Saquon Barkley, backing me up. Says I'm the wrong guy to ask because I hate joint practices, to be honest. I think one day is good. More times than not, nothing good comes of it. When you have to, the work, it's good, but then you get the pushing, the shoving, and someone says this about you, and it's, I don't know about that, but you're this. It's immature when you get to that level. I have to do a better job too, because I'm a little troublemaker sometimes, but I was good this week. These guys are just champing at the bit to hit somebody and to stop hitting their own teammates and getting hit by their coworkers and friends. And they want to get out there. And if you have no real deterrent like you do in a game, right, with penalties and ejections and the referees and all this kind of stuff, then these guys look at it as, ooh, here's an opportunity for me to body slam somebody, or if I'm Max Crosby, to pick a fight with everybody on the opposing team. So it's me and Saquon on this side. I think we're on the right side here. These joint practices. And I think Sean Payton's by us. It's me, it's Saquon Barkley, and it's Sean Payton. Because Sean Payton's not doing any joint practices. Now, his team's fighting with itself, but I think there's less of a chance, to Saquon Barkley's point, that you're going to get a fight when it's your own team as opposed to when you're practicing against another team. But if you're looking for a foolproof way of getting your players through a preseason unscathed and getting super ready for the season and being as primed and ready to go, you're not going to find it. There's no perfect way. They thought the joint practices were the way, and we're just finding out, nope. Just turns into a barroom brawl. And we love football, and I love football. It's kind of an uncivilized sport. So you're going to get uncivilized behavior when you're playing an inherently uncivilized sport. That's kind of part of why we love it. But it has to be said. So Saquon Barkley, not a huge fan of the joint practices either. Broncos did make a move today to fortify some of the depth at the safety position. They have added Taylor Rapp to the group. Rapp of Bills fame. That's probably where you know him from. He spent the last 3 seasons with the Bills, appeared in just 6 games because he had a knee injury before he was released in March. He was originally drafted by the Rams in 2019. He has 72 starts, 12 interceptions. So it's exactly what it is. It's a depth signing at a position that, to be fair, the Broncos need depth. The safety position is not their strongest. Now, with Brandon Jones healthy, we'll see what it looks like. I mean, obviously, Hufanga was very good last year. You had half of the safety duo. That was pretty good. Now, we'll see what Brandon Jones does, but this being the uncivilized sport we all love, like the NFL, where there's a high probability guys are going to get hurt, you want to have some depth. And at that position makes a lot of sense, and bringing in a veteran like Rapp is probably, when you're, Super Bowl or bust kind of season, you don't want to be, bringing in, undrafted rookies or rookies that don't make the 53 in another city and expecting them to be able to step in for your team if somebody gets hurt. I think going the veteran route makes sense. This is not a move that will make the difference between the Broncos winning the Super Bowl or not. I hate to tell you that, but makes sense. Veteran at a position where the Broncos lack some depth. Welcome to Denver, Taylor Rapp, Broncos and Packers. Tomorrow night, preseason game number 2. Bo Nix will play a little bit there in the preseason. We'll talk more about that. Maybe today, but certainly tomorrow when I'm at Trainwreck, it will be very much a preview of the Broncos' second preseason game. Also want to get this in before we take a break for the top of the hour, what's driving the show coming up. But I've been telling you about Game Day Men's Health, right? Couple months now. I've been working with them, and it's like those Hair Club for Men commercials. I don't just endorse them. I'm also a client. So I've been working with them in this capacity, but also I am working with them. I am getting treatment from Game Day Men's Health. And one thing that I've learned is that taking care of your health isn't just about fixing a problem. And I got to say, I've been guilty of that. I don't need to go into the doctor. I don't need to go into the dentist or go into Game Day Men's Health if nothing is wrong with me. I feel good. Well, good isn't my best. And that's kind of what dawned on me as I went in to Game Day Men's Health. And it's like, yeah, overall, proud to say, doing pretty well. Blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. Everything seems to be in working order, but you can always be better. And I think that's something that they certainly push. They can help you if your testosterone levels are low, or you're looking, for increased energy or whatever that might be. They can certainly help you there, but they do a great job of picking out some areas that are maybe not problematic, but maybe areas where you want to optimize your performance. They can help you do that as well. And the best part about them is they're not pushing you into anything. They're going to give you the straight facts, and it is totally on you what you want to do as far as your treatment. And, loving what I'm doing with Game Day Men's Health. I highly recommend them. Set up your initial appointment, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. They got a location down by the Broadmoor. They got another one up north soon, very soon. that will be my home base coming up as well once they get it up and running. But they're doing something right, right? That they're opening all these locations. So check them out, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. What's driving the show coming up next? Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening to the show, Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, the apps of those two respective stations, or you're watching the show on a variety of social media platforms. Basically, anywhere you scroll, you can find this show: Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, and Twitch. I do very much appreciate you tuning in to the show. If you would like to take your participation in today's show to another level, I'm all for it. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313, or you could simply drop a comment on the live stream that you may be watching on a variety of social media platforms as we speak. And perhaps you have thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. All right, we start with the end of the Peyton Watson era in Denver. I feel like, didn't Ben Tenzer say he was very confident that they would be able to keep Peyton Watson long term? I feel like he said that. But last night, they traded him in what turned out to be a 5-team deal. Gotta love the ingenuity of NBA teams. A 5-team deal, the part of it that you should care about is not what Charlotte got or the Wizards got. It's what the Nuggets got. They traded essentially Peyton Watson to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Peyton Watson turned around and signed a 4-year, $88 million contract, which, if you're doing the math, is less than Christian Brown makes, which Clutch Sports thought that Peyton Watson should get more than that. So it seems like the market spoke on him a little bit. The Nuggets, in return, get Angel Reese's brother, who they immediately waived. So don't worry about Julian Reese. They got a first-round pick in 2031 that belongs to the LA Clippers, and a 2032 second-round pick that belongs to the Sacramento Kings. So, in essence, the Denver Nuggets dumped Peyton Watson for nothing. And I don't mean nothing like draft picks don't have value, but I mean nothing in terms of something that is going to help the Denver Nuggets be better this year. Why not just keep Peyton Watson on the qualifying offer if you were just going to trade him for draft picks? That's my one question around this trade. I don't mind that the Nuggets traded Peyton Watson. I think he has an inflated view of who he is as a basketball player. I think he had one good month. I don't know that he's really worth what Cleveland's going to pay him. And I do believe the report that he held himself out of the Timberwolves series, looking to secure his next contract. So I'm not really bothered by the fact that they traded Peyton Watson. What I am bothered by, and what you should be bothered by as a Nuggets fan, is that the Denver Nuggets are still in the cost-cutting phase, the getting rid of talent phase, and we still are left to wonder, when are the Nuggets going to start adding to their roster to be better? Because this offseason, they've only lost. They have not gained. Marvin Bagley is not better than Jonas Valanciunas. Alpha Diallo is not better than Tim Hardaway. They are worse. And now Peyton Watson is just gone. So the Peyton Watson trade in and of itself doesn't really bother me that much. But it's part of the bigger picture, which is the Denver Nuggets continue to just lose talent and not get better. They've made a habit every year since they won a title to get worse. I don't think that's their plan, but that's been the end result. They're getting further and further away. And I have bad news for you if you think that they're going to take one of these draft picks and turn around and land a player that's going to help them win a title. They are actually, more than likely, going to take one of those picks, affix it to one of the other bad decisions they've made, and ship them out so they don't have to be in the second apron. Clearly, they agree with Nikola Jokic, his sentiments after they lost to the Timberwolves, that they're not close because they're not doing anything to improve the team. But they're not even accomplishing the goal yet of getting out of the second apron. That's another thing that bothers me here. They're making these tiny moves here and there to save a little bit of money, and it's like, just get out of the apron already so you could start to think about how you're going to improve the basketball team. But they're not doing that. And if they would be already out of the second apron, if they would have listened to me and traded Jamal Murray, they could have gotten valuable assets back, players that could help them win in the future. Yes, they wouldn't be better this year, but they could be better moving forward. There is no end in sight to the Nuggets' decline. That is the overarching takeaway. There is no end in sight. We haven't hit the bottom yet. And a big part of it is the mess that Calvin Booth left the Denver Nuggets in. The gall for this guy to say he made it look easy. That chump who ruined a championship team had the gall to say he made it look easy. Remind me again what NBA team has Calvin Booth as their general manager. Oh, nobody? He's like an assistant general manager for Penn State basketball? Okay, cool. No, that I think that fits. A lot of this is on him. But I feel like the current front office is unable to improve this basketball team and are unwilling to go to the lengths they need to go to get this thing figured out. They don't want to discuss trading Jamal Murray. They're very hesitant to trade Aaron Gordon. When you have a superstar like Nikola Jokic, you got to, whatever you're doing, you got to be all in, and you got to be going 100 miles an hour. Because every day that goes by, that means you have one less day remaining with your generational superstar. And I feel like this team is just dipping their toe into the waters instead of just diving in and doing whatever it is that they're going to do to try and get this team back to where it needs to be. But in other Nuggets news, maybe a ray of light through the dark cloud. According to Chris Haynes, they have their eyes in the direction of DeMar DeRozan and would very much like to sign him in free agency. Okay. You going to do it? Because here's the thing. If I'm DeMar DeRozan, I'm not winning a title with this basketball team. I might not even be a starter on this basketball team. If I'm DeMar DeRozan, remind me why I want to play for you when I could probably get more money or a more prominent role elsewhere. So I'll believe it when I see it, DeMar DeRozan on the Denver Nuggets. But at the very least, and I have to be fair, I am nothing if not fair, at least the Denver Nuggets are thinking about contemplating maybe getting around to possibly looking in the direction of DeMar DeRozan to then take it a step further and maybe offer him a contract to be a part of the team. At least we could say that about this wonderful organization that has been gifted a generational superstar and hasn't known what to do with it from the minute Tim Connolly left. It's remarkable. It truly is. You would be hard-pressed to find another organization in sport right now that is wasting the prime of the best player that has ever played for them, quite like the Denver Nuggets. I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs and contemplating that they're doing the same thing here. And yet I can't say that the Chiefs are mismanaging Mahomes more than the Nuggets are mismanaging Nikola Jokic's prime. And this is the team in the Kroenke Sports empire that Josh is supposed to care about the most. So, there you go. DeMar DeRozan. Maybe that will make things better. You can let me know on that. Story number 3 today. Story number 1, Train Payne Watson. Story number 2, DeMar DeRozan being looked at, contemplated, dreamt about by the Denver Nuggets. Story number 3 is a tough one on the road last night for the Switchbacks as they fall to Phoenix, rising 3-1. They fell behind 1-0. Adrian Perez with a fantastic goal in stoppage time at the end of the first half to tie it up. But what I saw in the second half last night was a team whose travel schedule and the amount of games that they have played in a very short amount of time has worn them down physically, but more so mentally. This is that was a worn down team in the second half. Remember, they played 2 Saturdays ago against Rhode Island. Then they played the following Wednesday in Spokane. They went from Rhode Island to Colorado Springs to Spokane. They came back to Colorado Springs, thankfully got a win against Birmingham, and then midweek traveled down to Phoenix to play in 108-degree weather there. This schedule is uncommon, if you're wondering. It is very uncommon to have this kind of a schedule for the Switchbacks. So if there's frustration, I understand last night was a frustrating result, frustrating second half, but I think more of the frustration for Switchbacks fans has to be at the situation. And that makes it more frustrating because you can't control it. It's the way the schedule laid out. And it's not over yet. They host El Paso on Saturday at Widener Field. But I think that match is going to tell the story of what this stretch was, how we feel about this stretch. Because if they beat El Paso on Saturday, they will have won 3 of the 5 games over this stretch. 5 games in 14 days. They will have won 3 of them. Not too shabby. They lose this game on Saturday, and then you look at this stretch and you say all the good that the Switchbacks did in July going unbeaten, it's kind of been undone because of this brutal stretch. So Saturday becomes a very important match for this team. They did bring in some reinforcements. I thought Bryce Jamison looked pretty good in his debut. Hopefully they get somebody else back from injury this weekend, and hopefully this team can just rest up, regen, and be ready for tomorrow night. I think they can save this stretch and look back on this stretch and feel pretty good about it if they can get a win on Saturday. If they don't win on Saturday, then I think this stretch will be one that has really disrupted what the Switchbacks had going throughout the month of July. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. That's what you need to know in the sports world today. How about what you need to know in the financial world? For that, I turn to my friend Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group right here in Colorado Springs. Each and every day, he gives us his RBG report, Rick's best guess, which is better than your best guess about the financial markets. Rick, what have we got today?
Well, Ryan, markets pulled back today as oil prices jumped, and that rally we saw in the bond market yesterday, well, it faded. Now, after Wednesday's announcement from the Treasury that they would be doubling their bond buyback, the rally that started out yesterday turned out to be very short-lived as traders resumed selling off those long-term bonds today. That drove the yields up on the 30-year Treasury. Today's RBG is that with those fluctuations going on in that long end of duration on the bond world, investors will be best served to hang out on the short end of that scale to get better, more consistent yields in those fixed income assets over the next several months. That is today's RBG.
Appreciate it, Rick. That's Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group right here in Colorado Springs. Start planning your future today at frsfinancialgroup.com.
Products and investment services offered through LPL Financial, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. FRS Financial Group is a name used by independent advisors associated with LPL Financial, LLC.
719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. More Drive Time Sports right after this. Tomorrow night, Denver, Green Bay, second preseason game. A certain someone who plays quarterback for the Denver football team will be in action. Bet you're wondering where you can watch the game. Well, I got a suggestion. How about Trainwreck, 2 blocks south of Widener Field, downtown Colorado Springs? I will be there getting you ready for week 2 of the preseason, doing this show from 3 to 6 out there. Love for you to come out and join me. And trust me, you're not going to get a better place to watch the game than Trainwreck in downtown Colorado Springs. Tonight, preseason week 2 begins with, you know how in the NBA we have league pass teams? Like, they're not necessarily good teams because those teams end up on national television all the time, so I don't think they really count. It's like these teams that you know are not great, but like you still want to watch them because they're super entertaining or for some other reason. The Raiders are becoming my preseason team, preseason viewing team. I want to see the Raiders. And not the Raiders as much as Fernando Mendoza. Every time this guy says something, I'm like, I am so all in on this guy. I am so all in on Fernando Mendoza. But I also need, you also need to view the Raiders because, like I said, Fernando's going to play. He played in game 1 this way. I think he'll play tonight against the Texans in this way. And week 3 as well, if he plays. He's going to play well enough. That's going to make you go, I'd really like Fernando Mendoza to be the week 1 starter for the Raiders. But what Clint Kubiak has to keep in mind is whether the rest of his team is ready. Fernando is going to be ready to start. I'll tell you right now, Fernando Mendoza is ready to be the week 1 starter for the Las Vegas Raiders. He absolutely is. Are the Raiders ready for Fernando Mendoza to be the week 1 starter? Are they going to? Because from here, he's got to develop. He's got to improve. He's got to put work in that makes you think, okay, year 2, here come the Raiders. Here comes Fernando Mendoza. I talked about this yesterday. We're seeing these young quarterbacks, young in terms of their NFL experience, not young in terms of their age because they're playing a million years in college football. In fact, there's a whole bunch of NFL players who are getting to go back to college because they decided, you know what? I want to go back to college. I don't want to play in the NFL, or I don't want to get cut by the NFL. And I got to tell you, I empathize with that. I wish that I went back to college. Now, there's some strings attached for me because I would have to pay my way there. So that's kind of what's keeping me from doing it. But like these guys who are older than Bo Nix now are getting to go back and play another year of college football. It's just an absolute disaster. It absolutely is. And the fact that we're turning to Congress to say, like, I hate everything about this. But anyway, I digress. With these players playing as much college football as they are, and if they are not playing as much as they'd like to, they're jumping ship, going through the portal and going somewhere where they can play. So we're seeing a more NFL-ready bunch when it comes to these quarterbacks every single year. And so now it's not the year 3 pop that we're looking for. It's earlier than that. Caleb Williams, year 2. Bo Nix, year 2. Jaden Daniels, maybe year 1. It's happening earlier. So if the Raiders are going to get Fernando Mendoza on the football field, they got to be able to develop him to the point that he's primed and ready for year 2 to really take off. And that depends a lot on the team around him. This team is devoid of wide receiver talent. They have two, I think, very good tight ends. I think Ashton Genty is that we did this the other day. Why didn't I mention Ashton Genty? When we were doing the list of the most overrated NFL players, I guess it's because he's just a year in and people are being a little bit patient. But I think Ashton Genty, given where he was drafted, overrated. But as I pointed out the other day when we were having this overrated conversation, overrated doesn't mean people think you're good and you're actually bad. It just means you're not as good as people think you are. Ashton Genty is overrated. But he's still better than, other teams' backs. I mean, better than quite a few of them. So you got Genty, who's decent. You got Brock Bowers, who's amazing. You have Michael Mayer, who's good. You signed Tyler Linderbaum from Baltimore. That was a good signing for the Raiders. But what else you got? Is that enough? And I like Clint Kubiak as a coach, by the way. So I think Fernando Mendoza is going to do very well with Clint Kubiak as his head coach. So what Kubiak has to decide is that enough? Lindenbaum, Genty, Bowers, Mayer, and me being Clint Kubiak, is that enough to get Fernando Mendoza out there right away and start playing? My guess is the answer will be no. And after the last preseason game, Kubiak, I think, phrased it a perfect way that the job was Kirk Cousins to lose, knowing full well that a veteran of Kirk Cousins' status is not going to do anything in preseason against second and third stringers to lose the job. So Kubiak is protected, and he can go with Cousins and say, look, I told you it was his job to lose. Do you see anything that made him lose the job? If he said it was Fernando's job to win, then that's where it gets tricky, because I think Fernando would play in a way that would lead people to say he won the job. This way, he's putting it on Cousins as the veteran to say, don't screw up. You don't screw up, you're getting the gig week one. But every week that goes by, and I do expect the Raiders to lose games out of the gate, it's going to be more and more difficult for Clint Kubiak to keep Fernando on the bench. And just with those factors that I was talking about these quarterbacks more ready to go than ever, I don't even know that we stick with the normal timeline of putting Fernando in the last 3 or 4, even 4 weeks of the season. Like I think I'm giving Kirko Chains like a month, and then I'm saying thank you for your service. Go ahead and grab a clipboard. What's the point of waiting till the very end of the season to play Fernando? Like, look, Jaden Daniels played right away. Bo Nix played right away. Caleb played right away. The one exception out of that 2024 class of the good quarterbacks was Drake May. And Drake May, we know, was kind of an exception to the rule that I am putting forth when it comes to quarterbacks now coming out of college. Drake May is young in experience. So there was more of a reason, and also the Patriots were objectively terrible. There was more of a reason to wait on Drake. I think the Raiders are a better team than that Patriots team was. And I think that Fernando is more ready to start than Drake May was. I don't think we're going to be waiting till the very end, last month of the season, when the Raiders are completely eliminated and forgotten, and here comes Fernando Mendoza. I think we're a Raiders 1-3 start from Fernando Mendoza starting, not because Clint Kubiak is going to feel the heat. He just got there. He's not going to be on the hot seat. It's Mark Davis who owns the team. It's not Al. He'll be fine. He'll get a year too. But it's just going to be like, look, let's get on with the rest of our lives here. then the first day that they play Fernando Mendoza in a regular season game is the first day of the rest of the Raiders' lives. You want to get there. You want to get to that day. Start the future. Start the excitement. Nobody's excited about Kirk Cousins being the quarterback of the Raiders. They're excited about Fernando Mania. That's the pull on Clint Kubiak, because he is there to make Fernando Mendoza a success, and by extension, that will make the Raiders a success. So Fernando in action again tonight against the Houston Texans. Then the other game will be San Francisco and the Chargers. Tyler Biadasz, I mentioned this yesterday, that Tyler Biadasz, or 2 days ago, that Tyler Biadasz got hurt. And the jokes about the substation, although the joint practice was in the Chargers' backyard, but people were making the joke that it's actually the 49ers that are the substation, not the substation. Anywhere the Niners go, people get hurt. But all joking aside, because it is an absolute bummer, that was a steal for the Chargers to get Tyler Biadasz. But I will say this, as somebody who has gone on the record this very week saying that Justin Herbert will be the MVP, somebody in myself who has already said the Chargers are winning the AFC West, and the person that has dabbled in the idea of the Chargers playing in the Super Bowl, I will tell you that Tyler Biadasz's injury should not change any of that. It is a bummer for the Chargers that Biadasz is hurt. I understand where Charger fans might go, here we go again. But let's prioritize here. Sean Payton does a great job of this, right? Where are the Broncos a little bit thin? Where have they spent less money? Inside linebacker, safety, interior of the offensive line. Sean Payton has his priorities in order. Losing Tyler Biadasz is not akin to losing Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. It is a blow to the Chargers, absolutely. It is not. It should not be, the death of their season. Okay, because if it is, then we can be out on Herbert. We could be out on the Chargers as a concept. We could be out on Jim Harbaugh. He doesn't have it anymore. And we can even be out on Mike McDaniel. And it will pay me to let him go. That quirky guy, Mike McDaniel. But if Tyler Biadasz and his injury is now what makes the Chargers fall apart, then they're absolutely what everyone clowns them to be on social media. This is a loss that the Chargers should be able to overcome. This is not on the level of losing 2 all-pro tackles. So, still with the Chargers. All of my Charger thoughts still there, but it is a bummer that they lost Biadasz. So those are the 2 games tonight. Tomorrow, Denver and Green Bay will be one of 3 games. The Steelers against the Jets. Ooh. So I'll be at Trainwreck watching live as Drew Aller's legend grows. So that'll be fun. And then it will be Denver and Green Bay. Jacksonville, Carolina as well tomorrow night on the slate. Little light. More games on the weekend, as you might expect. But Fernando Mania continues in 25 minutes. 719-247-1313. Back after this. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. I was just during the break sifting through what is left of the NBA free agent pool. Now that the Peyton Watson deal is done, would you like to hear some of the names that are out there? Of course you would. How about Ochai Agbaji? Averaged a whole 5 points a game last year. You want him on the Nuggets? The Antetokounmpo brothers are both available because Pat Riley's like, we're not Milwaukee. We're not signing your brothers, Giannis. Because that's dumb. Patrick Baldwin Jr. Better than Patrick Baldwin Sr., but still, I don't know that that's going to help out the Denver Nuggets. How about Delano Banton? Nicholas Batum, there's a name you may have heard. Bismack Biyombo. Bruce Brown still available. Amir Coffey. Seth Curry. You at least can say you have a Curry on your team. It's like, do the Nuggets see how this looks? Like, do they? I really like them to call a press conference. I really wish that they would have actually held on to Angel Reese's brother, who they technically acquired in the trade and then immediately waived him, just so maybe they would have an introductory press conference for Julian Reese, and somebody would be able to ask them, what is the plan here? What are you trying to do? Because the last time we checked in, everything was on the table, including running it back. Okay, well, you didn't run it back. So you didn't do that. All right. And I've been saying this, a slow drip of talent leaving the Denver Nuggets is technically included in everything being on the table. I know we're never going to get this level of transparency, but I feel like in this situation, we deserve it. We earned it. What is the plan? Because right now, if we're discussing how the Denver Nuggets is currently constructed, get out of the Western Conference, what would you say if I asked you that question? If I told you that I traveled to the future and I was shocked to find out that the Denver Nuggets actually play in next year's NBA Finals, what would have to happen? Because you can't say Nikola Jokic. You can't say anything regarding Nikola Jokic. Because look at the level the guy's been playing at, and the Nuggets aren't getting any closer to winning a title, so it's nothing that Nikola Jokic does. Jamal Murray was an all-star last year. You going to say Jamal Murray has to be this? He was an all-star. Wasn't good enough. You going to feed me the Aaron Gordon is healthy stuff? And that's going to make the difference? Maybe they're not bowing out in the first round, but even with the healthy Aaron Gordon, I have my doubts about this team getting out of the West. So you look at what is it? And it is, and I'll tell you what it is. It's Cam Johnson and Christian Brown being all-stars. I mean, I can't conceive of a way that the Denver Nuggets can get out of the West this year. And in a bit of irony, and please don't misunderstand me, I am not saying that Peyton Watson would have done this, but the great bit of irony out of this whole situation is that one of the players that, if I asked you this question 2 days ago, maybe one of the possible answers is what Peyton Watson was for that month in January. He becomes that guy all the time. Now, I wouldn't believe you for a second. I would say he's not going to be that guy all the time. but it would be a possible answer. I'll say not all-stars. How about this? I think this is very simple, and we were told that this was going to happen. How about Christian Braun actually becomes a legitimate replacement for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? I don't know that gets them there, but that's what we were told, and I'm still waiting because I still have it in my mind that Christian Braun is maybe a sixth man of the year candidate, but nothing more. I thought he was good in the role that he had. And then the Nuggets tried to sell us on the idea that they could let Kentavious Caldwell-Pope go and Christian Braun would just slide right in and everything would be great. They wouldn't skip a beat. They've been skipping beats. So how about that? How about Christian Braun finally becomes the player that the Nuggets have been selling us that he is? Let's start there. And then we'll get to Aaron Gordon healthy. Okay? And get a little bit closer here. Are they beating the Timberwolves with those two things? They're not. And I'll tell you why. They haven't addressed the one thing that David Adelman asked for and said they had to get when he met with the media. What was the big issue against Minnesota? Jamal Murray was run down because he constantly had to bring the ball up against Jaden Daniels. David Adelman's like, I need another ball handler. I need someone to take the pressure off of Jamal Murray. And the Nuggets front office went, the best we can do is Tyus Jones, who they had in that playoff series and didn't look like he made a difference. So as I'm just piling on more reasons for you to be completely and utterly fed up with the Nuggets front office, the one thing that their coach said they needed, they haven't gotten. Though there was one item on the shopping list, and they didn't get it. It's like when my ex-wife sent me out to go get something from the store. She kept it very simple. She said, Ryan, go and get this one thing. And I would come back with not that thing. If I'm letting you into my world, that's why she's that's why she's my ex-wife, or that's why I'm her ex-husband. It was the fact that she sent me out with a one item long shopping list and I could never go and bring back that thing. The Nuggets haven't even, and I swear that Ben Tenzer told us that they felt very good, very confident in retaining Peyton Watson. I don't even remember if he said long-term. It doesn't even matter. They didn't retain him. He's gone. Most of this is on Calvin Booth. Yes, but this dual GM thing that Josh Kroenke tried to sell us on, we were intrigued by it because they made the Michael Porter trade. And we're like, oh, kind of like what we got here. Well, unfortunately, and I'll legitimately give them credit. Like they made a move. Calvin Booth wasn't willing to trade Michael Porter. They were. Kudos to them. They tried to improve the team. It didn't work. So what do you do? What do? You go back out there and you make more moves to improve the team. That's all you could do. That's what you should do. They haven't done it. And they weren't even able to retain the players that they brought in. You know, if they retained Tim Hardaway and Jonas Valanciunas, then I go, okay, well, maybe year two might be a little bit better. They didn't even keep them. Valanciunas is in Greece and Tim Hardaway's in Miami. Like the situation that the Nuggets are in is not all the current front office's fault, but they just don't seem like they are capable of fixing it. And our first, sometimes your first instinct is right. How did we react When Ben Tenzer and John Wallace were introduced, we were like, you're doing what? Two co-GMs, and we haven't heard of either one of them? You're not going out and finding somebody who has actually built a team before? Oh, but the relationships. The relationships is what we were told. Well, I just observed you torpedoing your relationship with Clutch Sports over the past couple of months. So I don't know that you're getting the relationships. Our first instinct was, what in the world is this? And then they waved a shiny object in our faces, which was trading Michael Porter Jr. And then we went, oh, maybe there's something here. Our first instinct was right. They can't do it. This is too big of a job for them. And that's not, I don't want to be too disparaging of them. Sometimes it is. Meanwhile, Bob Myers, who has repeatedly talked about the Denver Nuggets, and I have it on pretty good authority that he has been interested in taking over the Denver Nuggets in the past. You know where he is now? The same place that LeBron James and Jaylen Brown are in. Yeah, Bob Myers kind of helped make that happen. Mike Gansey did too. Let's give credit to the guy who actually pulls off these moves. But Bob Myers was the one on the Rich Paul podcast making the case to LeBron. Bob Myers is overseeing Josh Harris's entire sports empire. And it just so happens that one of the teams in that empire just had the best offseason of any team in the NBA. Maybe a Bob Myers would have been a better choice to take over the organization. I don't know if the Nuggets have Jaylen Brown or LeBron James at this point, but can't be worse than what they're dealing with right now. And I wonder why Bob Myers never took over the Denver Nuggets. It seemed like there was a job opening. Could it be that Bob Myers wants to be fairly compensated for the fact that he helped be the architect of a dynasty and wants to be compensated as such when he joins another team? Yeah, that's not the Kroenke way. We go cheap. This is not the time to be cheap. You need to invest as much money in somebody's brain power to untangle this mess. At least we have the Avalanche, and at least you have the Broncos, right? I might not be as high on the Denver Broncos as you are, but I understand why you're excited. I understand why you're hopeful. Shouldn't be this hard. Should not be this hard to build around a generational superstar. But they have made it oh so hard. That'll do it for today. Appreciate the interaction. Thank you for letting me vent. That's what a large portion of the show was. I'll see you tomorrow. Trainwreck. Join me.